Tinkerbell has existed longer than every person living on Earth right now. Her first appearance was in the 1904 play where she was represented by a small light, and in my Jake and the Neverland Pirates lore video I talked about her appearances on that show, as well as in the Disney Peter Pan movie and Return to Neverland, the sequel. Now let's touch on everything else. So much has been done with this character. She is everywhere. She is no joke in the condo I'm moving into.
What?
I didn't notice this until the final walkthrough, but she is a light switch. You simply can't escape her. Are you kidding me?
Let's begin.
Your video tipping the show. I do.
Butt lovers. Welcome back to the Lore series where we discuss shows and movies no one else is brave enough to. As always, my videos are not intended for kids. Obviously, I love shows and movies intended for kids, but the way I discuss them in my videos is through a nostalgic and comedic lens for my fellow whimsical adults. You literally can't complain now. If you do, you look silly and we'll point and laugh at you. Let's start with how Tinkerbell is portrayed in the J.M. Barrie novel, because it's really fucking weird. Tinkerbell's first appearance is in Chapter 3, and the observations the narrator shares about her is how low-cut her dress is, and that her figure is this word. Let me listen to how to pronounce this bullshit again.
Embonpoint.
Embonpoint. And what embonpoint means is people of heavy, but not unattractive, girth. So needless to say, bizarre way to describe your character, especially after using the word girl for her. Not lady, not woman, girl. And then you describe her thickness in a revealing outfit in great detail, which Disney chooses to honor in the movie, as we've seen. Essential part of the plot, I guess. Embonpoint. Something actually interesting is when they finally focus on the magic of the fairies. I don't know why they didn't open with that. But anyway, we hear them describe the noise they make as the loveliest tinkle as of golden bells. It is the fairy language. You ordinary children could never hear it, but if you were to hear it, you would know that you have heard it once before. We obviously know where the story is going. Tinkerbell is going to act terrible to Wendy, trying to kill her over possessiveness of Peter Pan. But it's in even more detail here. Wendy says she wishes Tinkerbell was her fairy, meaning fairies belong to humans. But Tinkerbell calls Wendy ugly and exclaims that she's Peter's fairy. Here's how the rest of the scene plays out. You know you can't be my fairy, Tink, because I am a gentleman and you are a lady. To this, Tink replied in these words, "You silly ass," and disappeared into the bathroom. She is quite a common fairy, Peter explained apologetically. She is called Tinkerbell because she mends the pots and kettles. A lot to unpack here. Lady fairies can only be paired with lady humans, but despite this, Tinkerbell wants to be with Peter. And it is also implied there are different kinds of fairies and some are more rare. Does this mean in the world of the novel that all Tinkerbell fairies look and act the same as well? Or do they just share the same ability? Remember the part of the movie where Tinkerbell tries to kill Wendy? Well, here's how it's written. I don't know whether the idea came suddenly to Tink or whether she had planned it on the way, but she at once popped out of the hat and began to lure Wendy to her destruction. Tink was not all bad, or rather, she was all bad just now. But on the other hand, sometimes she was all good. Fairies have to be one thing or the other because they're so small, they unfortunately have room for one feeling at a time. They are, however, allowed to change. Only it must be a complete change. No gray area for the fairies. At present, she was full of jealousy of Wendy. What she said in her lovely tinkle, Wendy could not, of course, understand, and I believe some of it was bad words, but it sounded kind. What else could poor Wendy do? She did not yet know that Tink hated her with the fierce hatred of a very woman. Ooh boy, wow, I love when I'm unpacking a story and think, wow, this seems sexist, only for the next line of the story to be, did we mention we're sexist? We hate women. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Also, I find it disturbing that when describing femininity in an attractive and pleasing way, they call Tinkerbell a girl. But once her emotions get heightened and Tinkerbell goes full bad, all of a sudden now she's a woman. Also, leave it to this early 1900s douchebag to create such an iconic and beloved character and write her in the most uninteresting way imaginable. Oh, fairies are so itty bitty teeny weeny skinny mini that they can only feel one emotion at a time. Call her Flat Stanley with how two-dimensional that is. Also in the original novel, Wendy took an arrow to the chest. Later on in the book, when they need Tinkerbell's help and she refuses, Peter says says she better help or they'll barge into her room and they'll all see her in her lingerie. What? Wow, I really want to move on from this creepy source material now, so let's skip ahead. Tinkerbell drank poison to save Peter Pan and once again called him a silly ass because he doesn't realize that she loves him. They saved her life by clapping and believing, just like they did in the sequel Return to Neverland. Disney used a lot of this novel in different versions of Peter Pan. The acorn necklace called the Kiss that's brought up in Jake and the Neverland Pirates, and the live-action Peter Pan was first mentioned in this novel. So as much as they rightfully strayed away from the original source material later down the line, they were also clearly big fans of this world imagery and story. Don't know why. What I am a big fan of is the story and lore of this video's sponsor, Love and Pies. And I'm not joking around, there is lore. And the story isn't the only reason I've been playing nonstop. Every time I took a break from researching and scripting for this video, I was playing Love and Pies, and I'll tell you why. The gameplay is super calming, which is something I need in my life. I need to calm down. And it's also incredibly visually stimulating. I want to eat everything they make in this game so badly. And I wish in real life I could make a cookie just by combining 2 creams. I'd be baking so much more. We are not only in charge of running the bakery, but we're also in charge of interior and exterior design because we're rebuilding it after a mysterious fire. Did someone say story? We play as Amelia, a newly divorced single mother, and she's trying to prove her missing mom's innocence because everyone assumes she burnt down her own bakery for insurance purposes. Yeah, there's also romance, the love in Love and Pies. Look at this little charmer. Look at this little goofball juggling pastries. I need more people to play this game so we can theorize. Who do you think burnt down the bakery? I obviously don't trust Edwina, the owner of the bakery's biggest competition. She also keeps flirting with Amelia's crush. Back off. Thank you so much to Love and Pies for sponsoring this video. Be sure to download Love and Pies now using the link below. Now back to the video. Let's talk about the first Tinkerbell movie before we read a lot more.
Another one, thank you. Another one, thank you. Another one, thank you. Another one, thank you.
The first thing we see is a baby's laugh traveling all the way to Pixie Hollow. Pixie dust is sprinkled on the dandelion puff the laugh traveled in on, and Tinkerbell is born. All the fairies are there to welcome her and see what talent she possesses. The tool representing the Tinker Fairy lights up the most. And at the very start, it seems like Tinkerbell for a split second is disappointed to be grouped with a bunch of nerds. But she wasn't as rude about it as she would have been with her initial characterization. We see that there are different realms for every season. There are different fairies that help bring the different seasons of winter, spring, summer, and fall down to Earth, which they call the mainland. We meet Tinkerbell's main group of girlfriends who work together to help spring run smoothly. Iridessa, the light fairy, helps make rainbows. Fawn, the animal fairy, helps critters come out of hibernation. Silver Mist, the water fairy, and Rosetta, the garden fairy. They're all excited to explain to Tinkerbell and show Tinkerbell how they help, and they're such a solid group. Like, holy shit, iconic. Then we have Vidya, who exudes mean girl energy even in the way she looks. She's a fast-flying fairy that helped the wind carry the laugh Tinkerbell was created from. She thinks her talent is the most important because everything relies on her. So when Tinkerbell has the same pride over being a tinker, Vidya is insulted because she clearly looks down on them. This is when we see a bit of Tinkerbell holding her own with that big attitude of hers. She's less than a day old, and she already knows she's not going to tolerate this nonsense. She doesn't like being sassed, and she has no problem being sassed right back. A pushover she is not. Tinkerbell finds a variety of lost items from Earth, very Little Mermaid of her, and the boss of the Tinker Fairies, Fairy Mary, concludes that it's all just garbage. No room for innovation with the fairies whose job it is to literally build things, I guess. I found something while I was editing that really pissed me off. During one of the Disney on Ice shows, there's a Tinkerbell section with all the characters, and you see Tink and Terrence, and they look normal, and you see Bobble, and you see Vidya, and they look normal, and then Fairy Mary, who is so cute in the movies, by the way. Like, take another look at her again. Just remember this face. This is how she looks on ice. Are you fucking kidding me? And they disrespected Clank the exact same way. They couldn't have just put fat people on ice. They were like, okay, let's do some crazy prosthetics in the face. What am I looking at? We hear that they bring spring to the mainland when the Everbloom blossoms. I always wondered how in a place where no one ages they kept track of time, but it turns out they're just going off of Earth time. Tinkerbell's dream of going to Earth is crushed when Queen Clarion breaks the news to her that Tinkers don't go to Earth. The next day, Tinkerbell decides she wants to switch her talent, which is not possible. You have one destiny, and if you hate it, suck it up, I guess. Her friends try to teach her their talents, and she miserably fails at each one. The worst instance was her almost being eaten by a hawk. Fed up, Tinkerbell says she doesn't want to be a stupid tinker her whole life in front of her friends Clank and Bobble, who are her, tinker friends, who are covering for her all day at their tinkering job, which is what they've devoted their whole lives to. So, needless to say, they're insulted, justifiably so. When Tinkerbell fixes a music box from Earth, her friends try to hype her up. See how amazing it is to be a woman in STEM? This is what you were made for. But she says, no, fuck being a woman in STEM, I want to go to Earth. Tinkerbell, it's not that great here. I don't know what you're fighting for. So yeah, they just took Wendy's desire to go to Neverland and reversed it. Classic Disney sequel prequel shit. We had Marlin looking for his son. So what if we just have Dory look for her parents?
We're gonna make millions!
The irony of using the if it ain't broke, don't fix it method on a movie whose main character is an inventor is not lost on me. Vidya enabled Tinkerbell's lack of thinking things through, giving her the impossible task of herding the thistles to prove herself. This goes so terribly she destroys all of the nature fairies' progress for spring.
Bruh.
The last time they skipped spring, the Ice Age happened, so the stakes are very high. Tinkerbell, convinced she ruined everything, because let's be real, she practically did, is planning on running away, or flying away. She runs into Terrence, the fairy dust keeper who might actually be her twin. Her twin Kerbell, if you will. I had to say that very slowly. Anyway, he talks about how his job as a pixie dust keeper isn't important, and Tinkerbell goes off on a whole empowering speech about how he should be proud of his job, and plot twist, he is. He used psychological warfare in order to get Tinkerbell to believe in herself. Tinkerbell uses all the lost things from the beginning of the movie to make new inventions to help the fairies run all of the spring errands in record-breaking time, to the point where now spring is back on schedule. Vidya tried to turn everyone against Tinkerbell, but instead she actually blurted out and confessed that she was the one that told her to herd the wild thistles in the first place. It's so hilarious. Like, honestly, how do you fuck up that badly? After Tinkerbell made up for her mistake and fixed spring, she is tasked with going to the mainland to find the human child the music box she fixed belonged to. Terrence gives her something and says, good luck, Tink. And I'm just gonna say it, I hate this shoehorned love interest crap. I hope it doesn't go anywhere. Guess who the kid was that Tinkerbell returned the music box to? Guess. It was Wendy. Of course it was Wendy. Pretty crazy that she's overjoyed to meet a human child, only to try and kill that same human child years later for no reason. Unless this is a totally different canon. Speaking of totally different canons, I'm never skipping the spin-off books in Allure again. That's how I missed the existence of another Simba and Nala kid in my Lion Guard lore video. I can't believe I missed that. Honestly, it's still hard to cope with, because the kid's name was Copa.
This guy stinks!
Anyway, I was really confused about what order to read the fairy books in, but then I came across this post in the Disney Fairies subreddit that explains that we should really start with the Pixie Dust trilogy. Would you believe me if I told you that none of those 3 books are in this pile? But I found a PDF, so let's freaking go, gamers! First up, Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg. We hear about how a baby's laugh reverberates across the whole universe. Very similar to the movies, but here's something new. Apparently, Neverland itself will always find the child's laugh. Neverland will always make itself known to whoever it wants. Here's another weird fact. Apparently fairies refer to humans as clumsies. What a cute little disrespectful nickname for the species that you rely on your life source from. Because remember, not only are they born from a baby's laugh, but also if a child stops believing, a fairy dies. And even more intense is if all the children stop believing in fairies, Neverland will just fly away. Does this mean that Neverland will fly away to find another planet with a species to latch onto and form a symbiotic relationship with? Or do they mean fly away to nowhere? Because all the creatures will die. Regardless, this is just more evidence backing up my theory that I made back in the Jake and the Neverland Pirates video. So I'm hooked. Get it? Like that asshole pirate. Quick recap of that theory. I believe Peter recruited Jake and the Neverland Pirates after the Lost Boys retired, and Peter switched up his strategy, having them be more independent, going on higher stakes missions on their own, so that they feel fulfilled so they never leave. And they never grow and always believe, so fairy kind won't die. More world-building lore that ties back to the world we saw in Jake and the Neverland Pirates is the line, sometimes the island is huge and sometimes it's small. In the show, we constantly see the island changing, so this checks out. We meet Prilla, a new fairy formed by a laugh, and everyone is eager to hear what kind of fairy she is. One fairy exclaims, "My, she's freckled." And Terrence butts in to say, "Pleasantly plump, though." Why is this still happening? And it continues, by the way. Terrence smiled his most charming smile at Tink. He admired her enormously. He liked her bounce when she landed. He liked the arch of her eyebrows, the curl of her ponytail, and her bangs, which were the perfect length, and even her scowl, which was both fierce and pert. You were just talking about the plumpness of the new girl. Fuck off, Terrence. Tinkerbell doesn't want to entertain Terrence's flirting because apparently she's had her heart broken before. I wondered if they were referring to Peter with this line, because according to the books, this is canonically after she traveled with him. Also, P.S., let's just address it again. Why does Terrence just look like boy Tinkerbell? I've never seen a face that looks like hers before. Buddy, look in the mirror. You guys could be on Siblings or Dating. When Tinkerbell goes to greet Prilla, the way Prilla responds upsets her, because apparently Prilla, who just has manners, is speaking like a human. The way fairies talk is very straightforward, with little regard for how other people will interpret it or how their feelings will be hurt. And I believe they did this as a way to explain away Tinkerbell's rudeness, like, see, they're all like this. Being mean is just a cultural thing to the Neverland fairies. Back to Prilla, the other fairies suspect that she's incomplete, formed by a giggle instead of a full laugh. The concept of being incomplete comes up quite a lot in this book series, and it's just fairy ableism. But what actually happened with Prilla is that the human child, Sarah Quirtle, that sounds like a water-type gym leader. Kid even looks like a Squirtle, to be honest, but back on topic. Sarah Quirtle laughed so hard that Prilla is actually a little bit human. The only way fairies can be born is through humans, but if they're a little too human, that's a problem. And Tinkerbell, as irritable and rude as ever, is not helping. She wanted to fix Prilla. Because after all, Tinkerbell loves to fix things. And people, too, apparently. Which I guess explains why she was with Peter's silly ass for so long. In the 4th chapter, we have a stick to the status quo moment, where each fairy sits with their own talent, so essentially they have cliques. As we saw in the movie, hawks are a big threat to fairies. But on the flip side, we meet Mother Dove. Mother Dove is their god, an all-loving being who looks after the Never Fairies. Here's something else confusing. Never Fairies have different talents, but there are also fairies outside of Never Fairies, like the Wand Fairies and the Shimmerers. So that's not a talent, those are a whole other species. More Mother Dove lore, her egg is what causes no one to age in Neverland. Also, Pixie Dust is made with Mother Dove's feathers. And now we are met with inconsistency because all of Neverland's magic in Jake and the Neverland Pirates is contained within this tree. Maybe the egg was actually a seed that grew into the tree? Bro is on to nothing. Do not let her cook, she'll burn the entire house down. Anyway, they're making Mother Dove so essential to the series, which is so unfortunate because she's only seen in these 3 stories. While we're at it, let's address the elephant in the room. Is there any way to make this story's canon applicable to the movies as well? I'd say no. When Terrence was giving Tinkerbell a pep talk in the first movie, we see the Pixie Dust tree fountain thing. That's just a completely different magic source. Different universes. That's fine. I need to cover all my bases. Throughout this story, as Prilla wondered what her talent was, she would blink to the mainland and play with human children. She is the only fairy who is able to teleport, so she's kind of actually the fucking coolest, but she's afraid to admit it because if it's not normal, then it must be bad. You're telling me you're the most magical fairy of all? But that's not a talent. No. Stick to the stuff you know. How am I supposed to stick to what I know when I know nothing? I am 1 day old. Poor sweet innocent Prilla cried herself to sleep because the fairies are ableist as fuck, tying their self-worth to their ability to work. But Prilla couldn't even sleep in peace because she kept teleporting into children's dreams. She is more than just a friend to these children, she is part of their psyches. Can't even dwell on that because we learned so much more about the Dove God. Oh my god. So guess what? Mother Dove was not always magical and neither was Neverland. That's right, this book claims that Neverland was once a normal island. Until Neverland, and I'm using their exact words here, woke up, the eruption of a volcano woke up the island. The Dove's tree was the last thing to catch on fire, so maybe that's the tree from Jake and the Neverland Pirates. And it gets crazier because like a goddamn phoenix, the dove catches on fire and is reborn. During the ceremony commemorating the origin story of their benevolent bird goddess, a hurricane picked up. For the first time since Mother Dove got her magic, there hasn't been a storm like this since then. It was a very violent storm. I'm going to explain the conditions they described as a weather girl on the scene. Yes, as you can see, we have high winds coming in. How high? Eyewitnesses report a mermaid that was catapulted 50 feet across the beach. Oh, there goes another one. Yeah, there she goes. Are you okay? Are you okay, ma'am? Yeah, back to you. We are not even halfway through this book, and Mother Dove's wings are broken and lightning destroyed her egg. I'm actually stressed out. Also, there's a mention of blood, so they're really not fucking around. Also, the egg shattering led to animals and humans aging. Some examples given are Captain Hook getting a gray hair and Peter Pan losing a baby tooth. So here's where things get extra fucked up. Please welcome back your childhood crush, Vidya, the Jade West of Pixie Hollows. Although in this series, their land is called Fairy Haven. Anyway, Vidya is hated by everyone because a while back she plucked Mother Dove's feathers for her own selfish gain. Plucking hurts Mother Dove, but the pixie dust from her feathers is way more powerful. So imagine being Vidya. Everyone hates you for this. And somehow she has the balls to announce, guys, she's probably gonna die. Can we pluck her now? Vidya stands for Very Impressive Dick Watery. I'm ashamed. Earlier in the story, we hear of a dragon named Kaido, who is imprisoned and banished. He is allegedly pure evil, but they couldn't have made him look more pitiful. Like, I feel bad for him, even though they state Kaido was utterly wicked. Even Captain Hook's villainy paled in comparison. Kaido's capacity for mischief was unbounded, and there wasn't a shred of kindness to him. Okay, but what did he do, though? Now they're going to Kaido because they believe his flames can restore Mother Dove's egg. And now they have to go on a quest to retrieve items to bribe the dragon into doing so. Rainy is the leader of this mission. She's a water fairy who dreams of being a mermaid. She is very emotional and cries often about how she'll never be able to swim. She's able to mold water. Her design is stunning. All of those qualities are interesting. The one thing she does that majorly pisses me off and actually affects my enjoyment of this character is she finishes other people's sentences. Yeah, and this happens all the time. Shut up. Do you see how annoying that is? Even reading it pisses me off. The fairies battle Hook to get a cigar holder. How many of you are still thirsting for Hook, but this version?
Oh my god!
Let me read you some of the battle. It's grotesque as shit. Hook was 3 steps from his door. Prilla bit into his index finger as hard as she could. She spat out the blood, which was viscous and purple and tasted like spoiled cheese. She bit again and again. Dear God. We get answers about Tinkerbell and Peter, but that's a whole different can of worms that's gonna get its own section. It's not great. Let's focus on Mother Dove and Kaido fixing the egg for now. They retrieved Hook's cigar holder and a golden feather from the golden hawk, so you'd think getting a comb from the mermaids would be the easiest task. But you'd be so wrong, and I bet you feel so stupid right now because Rainy resorted to cutting off her fucking wings to be able to swim. Holy shit. As she swam, she said her dream of being surrounded by water was finally coming true. Is this an allegory for body dysmorphia and living as your truest self through transitioning? It really feels that way to me. She's never been happier than she is in the water. And with her wings, she was not able to swim at all. As Vidya, Prilla, and Rainy are taking the 3 items to Kaido, Mother Dove is attacked by a fox, and she thinks she's gonna die soon. When they finally get to Kaido, they realize they lost the golden feather, and he's enraged. Until Rainy offered him her wings. Kaido fixed the egg, but also put some of his evil in there because he's a scoundrel. When they bring the egg back to Mother Dove, she immediately realizes what happened. She's heartbroken, she almost dies again. But Prilla went on a world tour to encourage all the human kids to save Mother Dove. I don't want my God to die, so clap if you believe. I guess I do. Clap if you believe. Okay, sure. Clap if you believe. Bro, all that stress led to that, and the evil in the egg is extinguished? But on the bright side, Prilla does feel accepted, and she created a new fairy talent, of which she is the only member, a lonely existence. Next book, now for Fairy Haven and the Quest for the Wand. This story follows the classic lesson of be careful what you wish for, while also resisting the urge to power trip on magic beyond your comprehension and capability. Wow. In the last book, Rainy got the mermaid brush by promising this mermaid Soup that she would get her a magic wand. At first, Mother Dove was not letting Rainy hold up her end of this deal because she is worried about what a wand will do to their world. Mother Dove is making it seem like wands, wand fairies, and mermaids all cannot be trusted. Which sounds like an overgeneralization, but in her defense, Soup the mermaid did threaten to flood them for her not getting her wand, so now they have to get the wand for her. Mother Dove is also totally not acting like herself in this book. She doesn't trust her own fairies and she's acting very coldly towards them. Her fears are once again confirmed as all the Never Fairies are sent into a frenzy over this wand. In fact, many of them are already thinking about what they'd do with this magic, which is when we hear this. Russell, a scout whose right wing had no glow, didn't wish for completeness. Instead, he wished to be Mother Dove's favorite out of all the Never Fairies. His wish woke Mother Dove, who shed a tear for him and couldn't fall back to sleep. Like you heard, their god, Mother Dove, cries about this, but she doesn't do anything to reassure Russell that he's loved. We then meet the Wand Fairies, who are 7 feet tall. Tinkerbell immediately judges the Wand Fairies over them not having to work for anything. So we can view these fairies as the wealthiest motherfuckers alive. Let them eat cake. But with a bit of a twist, because these wands are alive, and they don't listen to everyone. In fact, you have to be very specific with your wording.
Like a genie.
The Wand Fairies explain that they will put a wand to sleep, so it will be easier for the Never Fairies and mermaids to use it. But once a spell is cast, it cannot be undone. The narrator of this story is judgy as shit. Listen to this. It was a thin silver wand, 3 inches long, with a squiggly engraving that ran its length. The first thought they each had was that it was small enough for each of them to wave. They didn't see how reckless its squiggle was, how peppy its shine. Of course they couldn't see its character, its mind, which thrummed with mischief, and a large dollop of spite, or its weak, chilly heart. They were already in the grip of wand madness. Ree said, "We'll take this one." They couldn't have made a worse choice. Dude, calm down. But anyway, let the power tripping begin. Before we get to that, I need to know if I'm losing my mind or not. Please let me know if this sounds sexual to you. Are you a strong little wand? Tutupia sniffed the wand and stroked it. She licked it. She rolled it between her palms. It jumped and jiggled. She murmured, "Will you be good to the little fairies and the mermaid?" She touched it with her own wand. Sparks flew between them. Is it just me or should that not have been in a children's book? Like, I actually need to know if that sounds normal to you guys. So the fairies were trying to use the wand to get back to Neverland, but Neverland itself stopped them. The magic of the actual land of Neverland is the strongest, and the only thing that can compete with wand magic. Rainy feels out of place without her wings, but she wants to be friends with the mermaid Soup even more. Rainy broke her promise to Mother Dove and instead wished to be Soup's friend. Messing with someone's free will is quite the powerful start, but it doesn't stop there. She grabs the wand and wishes for wings that'll work both in the air and in the water. Guys, she's swinging both ways! I don't know exactly what Rainy is, but she's gay and somewhere outside of the binary, I'll tell you that much. If you disagree, argue with the butt. Why does everything have to be all
Her
about
channel.
the gays
Don't
all
like
the
it, leave.
time? Prilla discovered the human whose laugh created her. Remember Sarah Quirtle? Sarah Quirtle. Yeah, that kid is incomplete because part of her soul was laughed out of her and put into Prilla. But Prilla uses the wand to make Sarah complete while also being able to still use her teleportation powers. And it works. Good for them. Tinkerbell, written as the pettiest bitch alive, uses the wand to make Peter Pan fall in love with a clam. Girly could have ended world hunger but decided to humiliate her ex-situationship instead. Queen Ree wished the hawks were small. Vidya stole the wand and wished she was faster. And she was so fast her skin hurt while she was flying. Vidya's need for speed in this trilogy sounds like a drug addiction, which makes sense because speed is a drug.
I learned it by watching you.
And worst of all, Terrence wished Tink liked him romantically. I hate this guy. The fairies couldn't find Neverland because Neverland rejected the wand. So Neverland can do that, but it can't stop the mermaids from flooding it? These mermaids and pirates are bloodthirsty jerks. What is Neverland doing to stop them? The answer is nothing. Also, the mermaid song turned Rainy into a bat. And the mermaid Soup that Rainy tried so hard to befriend used the wand to get her friend Pa back. The mermaids, 3 seconds after rekindling their friendship, are overcome with wand madness and they wish that they couldn't hear each other or something. I don't fully know what's going on with the mermaids, and I truly struggle to care because Rainy is still a bat. Rainy is so suppressed within this bat that she can't speak or make facial expressions. So her friends don't recognize it's her, and she's trapped, unable to do anything, even though she's internally screaming, "Guys, it's me! Help! Help!" I truly can't believe how long this plot plot lasted. It was so frustrating. But this just in, they found a way to make me care about the mermaids amidst all this rainy bat shenanigans. You're not gonna believe me when I say this because I say it about everything. You're gonna call them gay, aren't you? Well, yes, but it's beyond subtext this time, okay? These bitches gay. Soup woke up next to Pa after they passed out, crying and screaming about how much they hate each other. And Soup looks at Pa, who's fast asleep after this fight, and thinks, she's the prettiest girl in the world. Aww. She even loves, I'm not fucking with you, the way Pa's hand curls when she sleeps. Is it June? Because something smells gay! Is their ship name Supa? Because I think that's Supa. Rainy escapes from inside the bat, and now the bat is inside Rainy. The story ends with the wand waking up and reversing all of the wishes except for the one about Sarah Quirtle being complete, and because the bat Rainy thing happened because of a mermaid song, that doesn't get reversed. That bat is inside Rainy forever. The whole purpose of this character is to suffer. It's so sad. The Fairies in the Quest for Neverland is the last of the Gail Carson Levine trilogy, and then we'll get back to the movies and everything else. So just like in Lion King, we have a secret child that conflicts with the movie canon. Meet Gwendolyn. She is the daughter of Wendy, even though in Return to Neverland, we see Wendy's kids, and their names are Jane and Danny. But if you want to see me stretch, Gwen's middle name is Jane, so maybe Gwen is Jane and she just changed her name. Bars. I sounded like Eminem.
Maybe Gwen is Jane, but she just changed her name.
What kicks off the finale of this 3-part book series is Gwen is given the acorn kiss necklace, which gives her visions of the fairies. For whatever reason, Wendy, her own mother, shuts down her dream. Tink is interested in Peter even though he's a clumsy. Peter is an exception. The fairies probably won't speak to you, Gwenny, and they may not be pleasant if they do. A few things about this. Wendy is written as unlikably as possible in this book, and we'll discuss that more in the Peter and Tinkerbell section. And also, they call Peter human, so can I make a mini theory right here? You know how Prilla was created by a baby that laughed way too hard, to the point where part of her soul was in Prilla? What if a baby, hear me out, died of laughter and formed some sort of fucked up human-fairy hybrid? And that's what Peter is, which is why he remembers his mom but doesn't. He has pointy ears. Maybe that's another reason why Tinkerbell is inexplicably in love with him. I don't know. But hey, that's just a theory. A stupid fucking theory. They added on to this harsh truth bomb by reminding us that Wendy had a very terrible experience with Tinkerbell, and I guess that trauma reinforces her view about fairies and she's trying to protect her daughter, so you know what? Fair. Gwendolyn has visions that span across the first book. In fact, she was one of the children that clapped to save Mother Dove. Wow. Peter Pan takes Gwen on an adventure to Neverland and shows her all different constellations that lead to different areas. The Kaido constellation, the Golden Hawk constellation, and the Peter constellation. Gwen is finally able to talk to fairies, and it is her dream. You know how Rainy talks about the mermaids? That's how Gwen feels about the fairies. She wants to be one. Unfortunately, Mother Dove sees Gwen as a danger to fairy kind because she loves them too much. I don't actually know what that means. Neither does Tinkerbell, and when she asks Mother Dove for an explanation, Mother Dove essentially says, I don't know. Mother Dove's sketchiness knows no bounds, as she also casually drops that she's been watching the Darling family line for generations. All-powerful Dove God, why us? It's very simple, for you see, your mother, Wendy, and you, Gwendy, are the main characters. At least until the movie kills you off to create a new daughter. What? Well, that's showbiz, baby. 2 Tiffins, creatures that are like a combination between humans and trolls with elephant ears, accidentally freed the evil dragon Kaido. Gwen also has a vision of Vidya helping Kaido because it turns out Vidya and Kaido are in love. He likes flying fast, and so do I. If that's not love, then what is? Who cares if he wants to kill everyone I love? Infuriatingly, Mother Dove tells the rest of the fairies, even though she turned on us again, we must be nice to Vidya. But for whatever reason, when Gwen tried to save the fairies, Neverland took away her ability to see them. No good deed goes unpunished in Neverland. Somehow Vidya can kill her own people with no consequences, but Gwen trying to help is just too far. One line that goes incredibly hard is after Vidya explains that she doesn't want to help either side, the fairies or Kaido, the narrator calls out how stupid being a centrist is. Divided loyalty. Nothing divided by nothing. Vidya was worthless. So many people need to hear this. Allow me to quote Shakespeare. If you stand for nothing, Burr, what'll you fall for? Vidya did end up helping Kaido get captured in the end, but she also still loves him, so she's keeping him company in prison. She's not trapped, she's just visiting. She's just there during visiting hours. And also Gwen can see the fairies again. Beyond rushed ending. They just backpedaled as quickly as possible. All I know is that Vidya is a fucking loser in these books. Also, how is Gwen able to talk to the fairies? They never explain that.
Tinkerbell and the Lost Treasure.
The nature fairies are now working together to bring fall to the mainland. So wait, are there season fairies? Or just winter fairies and season ambassadors? This movie doesn't answer that, but it does let us know that Tinkerbell and Terrence are now best friends. Who gives a shit? Moving on, Queen Clarion requests Tinkerbell's presence. This year is the year of the Tinker Fairy. Every 8 years, a different fairy type welcomes fall with their unique scepter to filter the blue moon through the moonstone to create blue pixie dust. And the blue pixie dust rejuvenates the pixie dust tree. Anyway, the moonstone is very fragile, so when Tinkerbell almost breaks it 3 seconds after receiving it, Fairy Mary, the boss of the Tinkers and the one that recommended her, starts counting to calm herself down. That being included, plus Tinkerbell drawing more attention to it by asking why she's counting, is a Chekhov's gun if I ever did see one. If Tinkerbell doesn't count to calm herself down by the end of the movie, I will delete my channel. Guess what? It happens immediately. They don't even wait till the end of the movie when the stakes are high. She's just pissed off at Terrence, who's trying to coach her because he's the pixie dust expert. I am so bored. This is my least favorite of the Tinkerbell movies, by the way. Tinkerbell sends Terrence off to do some bullshit task, and when he brings back a compass, she says, I don't need this shit, and hip bumps it, and it rolls into her scepter and the scepter breaks. 2 things here. 1, at least the moonstone didn't break. And 2, she gets mad at Terrence even though it was fully not his fault. Oh, and she did break the moonstone right after he left, so scratch what I said, I guess. Tinkerbell is dragged into watching a theatrical production the storytelling fairies are putting on, so I guess this part doesn't really matter.
It's very long.
Okay, I'm listening.
A pirate ship, a ride in Neverland.
Wait, just slow down.
The enchanted mirror of Encanta.
Slow down, wait, what did you say? Long story short, the show conveniently mentions a mirror that can grant a wish. The journey is told in a very ominous way.
When you're alone, but not alone.
And Tinkerbell misses their warning at the very end, which essentially is, be careful what you wish for. Tinkerbell sets off on her quest alone, making a hot air balloon and befriending a firefly named Blaze on the way. She snaps at Blaze for letting the hot air balloon go, which was once again her fault. So this movie is clearly Tinkerbell's owning up to your mistakes and taking accountability arc. Which is great, and it was needed. I wish it was told in a more interesting way. She even added the word sorry to her vocabulary. And I'm gonna need to hear a sorry from whoever wrote this movie, because I'm sorry, who in their right mind would watch the first movie and think, you know Iridessa, Fawn, Silver Miss Rosetta, and Vidya? Yeah, let's throw them in the back burner. Who cares about them? Me. And literally everyone else. The 2 things I will say is Terrence has the patience of a saint, which really is needed when dealing with somebody like Tinkerbell. And also their solution at the end was pretty fun. They couldn't fix the moonstone, but they refracted the light through its shards and into another diamond-looking stone. Also, the scepter looks sick as hell. I want to make this thing somehow. I want to bring it to real life. The other great positive that came from this movie is Terrence really isn't seen again in a major way. So I'm glad they let him have his spotlight, and I'm glad it's over. The third movie is Tinkerbell and the Great Fairy Rescue. The fairies spend all summer at fairy camp on Earth, where the one rule is avoid humans. A whole 1 minute after arriving, Tinkerbell thinks, I gotta see those humans though. So the first thing she does is observe this old-timey car. This car indicates that this takes place sometime in the 1800s. Vidya, annoyed by Tinkerbell, follows and berates her. This butterfly that was incorrectly painted by the fairies at the beginning was discovered by the human child Liz and her father. And guess what? They're British. Can these fairies only visit England? Liz believes in fairies, but her scientist father doesn't. In fact, he's really disheartened that his 9-year-old daughter believes in magic still. 9 years old is really young. I fucking hate this guy. Liz puts a fairy house outside and Tinkerbell explores it. Vidya is losing her shit telling Tinkerbell to leave and that this is dangerous. Tinkerbell says there's nothing to worry about, famous last words. Vidya slams the door, but the timing is absolute shit because the door gets stuck, just in time for Liz to come back to her house and scoop it up. Excited to show her father the discovery she just made. Liz's pure joy at the fact that fairies are real, juxtaposed by how terrified the fairies are, is honestly hilarious. But Liz is snapped back to reality very soon. She was gonna show her father the fairy she caught, but quickly changed her mind after the father exclaimed, "Look, child, look in this jar. It's the butterfly we saw before. I'm going to kill it and display it and put it in a museum." Now imagine that, and on top of it, there's a bunch of dead butterflies displayed around him. Tinkerbell from inside the dollhouse is shitting bricks. Vidya watching through the window is shitting bricks. Liz brings Tinkerbell to her room for safety, but her cat tries to kill Tinkerbell too. Vidya runs to get help from the others, so she misses when things actually start to settle down. Tinkerbell and Liz become best friends even though Liz only hears bells when Tinkerbell speaks. She is only able to understand her through a huge game of charades. Liz is apparently a charades champion, as she fills up a whole book with facts about fairies. The Tinkerbell from these movies is chaotic good when every other version of Tinkerbell is chaotic evil. I would say chaotic neutral for the books, but just you wait. Vidya feels isolated from the rest of the girl group. They even do their little chant without her. The group that's setting out to save Tinkerbell create a little boat and ride it along the stream, but of course, because this is an action sequence, they encounter a waterfall! That's always what happens when you're going down a river-like thing during an action sequence. The moment they went, guys, I was like, there's a waterfall, isn't there? Because this is always what fucking happens. Not to brag, but I correctly guessed where a kid's movie went. Yeah.
Who's alive?
Vidya confessed that she slammed the door on Tinkerbell, but she didn't mean for it to get stuck, and the rest of the group immediately forgave her and added her to the little chant. Not Clank and Bobble, though. No boys allowed. Liz's dad gets really mad that the butterfly is no longer in the jar. Tinkerbell is the one that freed the butterfly, but Liz knows not to tell her dad that. Tinkerbell teaches Liz how to fly with fairy dust, and as the dad scolds her again, Tinkerbell is fed up. She tells him off, and even though we only hear bells, I know for a fact he deserved every fucking word of that. Vidya, very on brand, shows up just in time to witness the danger. The dad starts picking up a jar to trap Tinkerbell, but Vidya pushes her out of the way and gets trapped herself. So fuck what you heard, this Vidya would never fall in love with a fairy-eating dragon. This Vidya is great, she deserves her redemption arc, and she's better written. I'm gonna piss off a lot of people with that. I know people really like these books. I think they're a little mean-spirited. And here is where the actual great fairy rescue begins, because as you know, Tinkerbell was not in trouble when she was bonding with Liz. The great fairy rescue is getting Vidya back. The dad immediately starts running to the train station, and since it's raining and fairies can't fly when their wings get wet, Liz flies with Pixie Dust to catch up to her dad and force him to have a change of heart. Beautiful father-daughter moment where they fuck with Big Ben, just like they did in the original movie. Did we mention we're in England?
Oi, that fucking hurt. I don't understand what I did.
And the movie ends with fairies and humans coexisting and having a beautiful picnic together. People will describe Disney, especially from the 2000s onward, as very sanitized and safe and cheesy. But honestly, I feel like this is a more appropriate characterization of creatures literally born from the laughter of children. Like, why do they hate humans in the book series? Why are they all assholes? I don't think that makes sense for them. Speaking of things that don't make sense and are upsetting, the actual trouble with Tink extends far beyond this book, but let's start here and then we'll jump around a bit. So in the books, I love how committed they are to the continuity, but it's also hilarious to me because listen to this. Rainy was the only fairy in the kingdom who didn't have wings. She cut hers off to save Neverland when Mother Dove's egg had been destroyed. Now Brother Dove did flying for her. Yeah. We know this already. I'm a real fan of the books, okay? I'm so glad I found that Reddit post, though, because I can't even imagine the panic I'd feel if I read this without the context. She cut off her wings? Whoa, I guess I missed a few chapters, huh? Let's see where I can read about that. Oh, way more than a few chapters. I missed 3 books. Shit! So the main conflict of this book is that Tink lost her hammer. And apparently the process of getting another one is so elaborate. A tool-making fairy would need never iron to make a new hammer, and a mining talent fairy would have to collect the iron. Because their work was difficult, the mining talent fairies only mined once in a moon cycle, when the moon was full. They really had to make it clear that the mining fairies worked in ethical conditions. Why make mining fairies at all, though? The moon wasn't full, though, so the only other solution Tinkerbell could think of was her spare hammer, that she left in Peter Pan's hideout. She cried at the idea of seeing Peter again, though, because they haven't spoken since Wendy left. So let's finally address the elephant in the room. In Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg, we hear their origin story. The first time Tinkerbell met Peter Pan is when she saved him from a shark. She told Mother Dove that she loved him. His hair was so silky, she'd said. I used to perch on his head just to feel it, and his nose. I could tell if he was smiling by looking at nothing but his nose. It would flatten when he smiled and wrinkled when he laughed.
Nobody asked.
He also made her feel so special by calling her the best fairy. He couldn't have meant it, Tink continued while weeping. If he really thought I was the best, why did he bring over the Wendy? She collapsed on the sand, still sobbing. Why did he spend all his time with her? I have to tell you just how creepy this is, because in the beginning of Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg, when Prilla was created from a laugh, the book explains that she's an adult. Prilla wouldn't look young to you, she'd look grown up, just about 5 inches tall, same as any other fairy, and was perfectly proportioned. Again, mentioning her body. But again, the main thing is she is a grown-up. In the freaking Egg book, we hear that Peter Pan hasn't even lost his baby teeth. He is a baby, and Tinkerbell is an adult. The fairies in the Quest for Neverland makes it, oh my god, so much weirder. Let me read some of this to you. Father spread peanut butter on his toast. I swear, your mother still has a crush on that Peter. Oh, to be young, Mother said lightly. Ew. When Peter saw Wendy as an adult in this book, Wendy told her own daughter, he's crying because I grew up. She smiled wistfully. I half wish I hadn't. Stop it! Return to Neverland, the movie, handled Peter and Wendy's interaction so much better, because Wendy wasn't like, yeah, I wish I was still with Peter. No, she was like, okay, I'm mourning my childhood self, and I'm moving on, because I'm an adult. This is so weird. Why would they write that? Let's talk about everything else I discovered in the rest of these books before we get back to the movies. I just had to mention how weird that was. I hate that. That's like some anime shit. I don't like that one bit. Let's hear the rest of the trouble with Tink. So when Tink refused to get her hammer back, she tried to use a pebble to fix this pot, and as a result, she broke it. Movie Tinkerbell has fucked up at her job way worse than this, and the world in the movie is like, accidents happen, right? Wrong! The book strikes again with making the fairy kingdom sound more like a dystopia. Listen to this shit right here. The thing was, no fairy ever failed at her talent. To do so would mean you weren't really talented at all. Pressure that'll drip, 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 drip and never stop. Like that pot that you were supposed to fix. You stupid bitch. To hammer the point home, ooh, wrong choice of words, sensitive topic. Even the pans Tinkerbell made that looked fine ruined all the baking fairies' pies. Every sweet, fruity pie they made using the pans that Tinkerbell fixed turned into mincemeat. That's almost impressive. How did she mess up that badly? So here's something really interesting. Prilla applied herself and practiced tirelessly to be able to create a fountain to amuse human children. Creating fountains is a water fairy talent, but Prilla accomplished it. So fairies are able to teach themselves other talents, but it's pretty much unheard of because most fairies just stick with what comes naturally to them. So the book ends with Tink going to get her spare hammer to get closure, and Terrence goes with her to Peter's hideout. The first thing Peter did was pretend he saw the fairies as butterflies and like run to kill them, but when he revealed it to be a prank, they laughed with him because, direct quote here, the thing was, it was impossible not to like Peter Pan. He had the eagerness of a puppy, the cleverness of a fox, and the spirit of a lark all rolled into one spry red-headed boy. Impossible not to like him, huh? Then explain this. Even as a kid, I wanted to beat the shit out of him. He's a little shit. That's right. The trouble with Tink was also turned into this manga, Tinkerbell's Secret. I want to share some differences and funny moments within this. Sailor Guardian Hope is also making a video about these soon, and I cannot wait to watch it. I'm sure she'll go into way more detail than I'm going to right now, but just a few brief points. In the manga, they made Tinkerbell a bit more ditzy. As a hawk swooped towards her, she exclaimed, "No way! What should we do?" What the fuck do you mean, what should you do? Run! Fly! Hide! The other Tinkerbell would never act like this. However, in this book, they kept mentioning Terrence's sparkling smile that Tinkerbell never noticed. This is the sparkling smile they were mentioning? This is terrifying. Aww. Now, here's my favorite part. Their interpretation of this scene is so intense. If there's one thing we can count on from manga, is its ability to crank shit up to level 9,000. Because reminder, here's the movie scene. I hereby banish you forever. forever. Now for manga Peter Pan. I hereby banish you forever! Plot twist of the fucking century, the manga actually rewrote Tinkerbell and Peter Pan's dynamic to make it way less creepy. They made it sound like Tinkerbell was upset that Peter Pan yelled at her, and she was afraid that he was still mad. He wasn't worried at all about what happened. Banishing me forever was just him letting off steam. I can't believe I'd been so afraid to see Peter again. If I had just been mature, I could have stayed here and had all sorts of fun. Just pals. Just a friendship fight. Was that so hard? How was the manga the one to fix that? Vidya and the Fairy Crown. It also has a manga. Strap in. Very important context. Wait, hold on. Rennie did not have wings, you see? Yes, I see. She was the only Never Fairy who didn't. Why? She had given them up to save Mother Dove's egg and Pixie Hollow itself. They should sell recapless versions for the real fans like us. But here's the secret. The book would be half this length. They are constantly recapping the events of the first trilogy. Let's compare the notes of the first page. No mention of the blackberry writing on the linen in the manga. In fact, this scene, crunch. How cheesy. That crunch implies this isn't linen. The manga follows a show don't tell method of storytelling, which makes sense because it's all pictures. So there's a lot of details missing, but the story is pretty much exactly the same. The emotions are so heightened in the manga. Like, manga Tinkerbell is about to flip a tit, which all the characters also have in the manga, like way more boobage. Anyway, she's way more explosive in this version at Vidya being mean, but in the original version, she just shakes her head. They're just kind of done with Vidya. They don't take it personally anymore. Prilla, who seems less like a fairy and more like an angel, decides to help Vidya prove her innocence from the crown snatching allegations. So Vidya was accused of stealing the crown because she said she was gonna steal the crown and then the crown went missing right after she said that, so she looks guilty as fuck. Queen Clarion says if Vidya was the one that stole the crown, she was gonna be banished from Pixie Hollows. How is that the final straw? Vidya's done way worse. Why are they putting their foot down now? The one thing I really miss from the original books that I wish translated in the manga is I wish the manga had color. The color breathes so much life into these scenes. Fewer pictures, but I would argue that the pictures carry the story even more somehow. I mean, in my opinion, it's just hard to compete. Like, this is stunning. At the end of the book, Vidya found the crown and proved her innocence, but there's a split second where she hesitates and considers stealing it for real to get revenge on those who didn't believe her. Holy shit, Vidya, it's not everyone's fault you're a sketchy motherfucker. You've betrayed them before, you said the most incriminating shit. You think I stole the crown? Prove it. I mean, here's a video of you saying you want to steal the crown. Hey, it's me, Vidya. I want to steal the crown. Fuck the queen. I hope she dies. I mean, yeah, I said that, but I didn't mean it. You thought I meant it? You guys suck. Beck and the Great Berry Battle, really cute book, not much to say. Beck is great. She solves a conflict between the chipmunks and the hummingbirds. It's very cute. Lily's pesky plant. Lily and Iris are excited because they discovered a new type of seed. They don't know what plant it belongs to. So they plant the seed, it begins to sprout. They excitedly tell Vidya, and Vidya says this. Darlings, I've never seen anything so ugly in my life. It reminds me of a sick caterpillar I saw once. If I were you, I'd put it out of its misery now. And she wonders why no one likes her. I just don't get it. You can't act like that and then play victim. Iris at the start of this book came across as very confident and even cocky. She talks about her gardening book and all this wisdom she has to bestow and how much she knows about gardening, yada yada yada. But when she let her guard down in front of Lily, she told her she wrote that book to keep track of how to care for each plant because gardening doesn't come as naturally to her as it does with the other gardening fairies. Iris also said that she knows what other fairies say behind her back. She knows the others call her incomplete. Fucking fairy ableism again. But honestly, all the best fairies are the neurodivergent ones. All the others can suck Kaido's toes. Vidya probably already does, sick fuck. The new plant caused a lot of trouble for the fairies. Aside from it being an eyesore, it also attracted giant wasps. It made a shit ton of pink pollen that all the fairies were allergic to. And 2 fairies got stuck in it. But in true ugly duckling fashion, overnight it turned beautiful and it sprouted delicious golden fruit that tasted like fresh lemonade. Turns out, the plant is an ever tree. It flowers only once, but then grows fruit forever. So they'll never have to deal with those horrible side effects again. This is also the only ever tree, because that volcano that woke up Neverland way back when destroyed all of them. Rainy and the Mermaid Lagoon. Vidya makes Rainy feel useless for not having wings. I think Vidya should die. So Rainy decides to live in the sea. During this page where Rainy says, "Such beautiful mermaids want me to live with them," and she's blushing. I forgot what I wrote on this post-it note, but it just turned into a pride flag. Rainy and the mermaids kissing in the sea. LGBT. I will say, the manga really watered down the design of the mermaids, no pun intended, but they look closer to how they did in the movies. I don't know where the books got this from. So Rainy loves life under the sea. I've never seen her happier. But she cannot give up her family to pursue this dream, especially since the mermaids don't respect her and see her more as a toy. Rainy just can't win. It's really sad. As compelling of a character as she is, I'm really glad they went with Silver Mist, because she's just silly and fun, and I can enjoy her presence. This is depressing. Last book I have here, Tink North of Neverland. Right off the bat, this imagery is very similar to Tinkerbell and the Lost Treasure. In this version, however, Tinkerbell was interested in the compass, and she didn't hip bump it. It was actually Terrence's fault that it rolled away, destroying her work. Even though it was an accident, Tink snapped at him, and she was also frustrated getting distracted by him and his look, so it seems like her crush is developing as well. Silver Mist was also the one to cheer him up in the movies. Except in the book, Tinkerbell is jealous of Silver Mist as quickly as she got jealous of Wendy. This book was just Terrence hanging out with the other fairies, and Tinkerbell feeling left out, even though she was the one that told him to leave her alone. And Terrence actually really wants to hang out with Tinkerbell, but is just trying to respect her boundaries. Oh great, a whole book where the only conflict is lack of communication. It's like the second movie, but worse. Crazy casual lore drop that changes the fabric of reality in these books entirely. So Tink and the others went to see a show put on by the storyteller fairies, just like in the movie, but in this show, they shared, long, long ago, before the home tree, even before Mother Dove, there was the Pixie Dust tree. In those days, Pixie Hollow was a great land. It stretched for miles. It covered mountains, forests, and rivers. The Pixie Dust tree stood at the center of it all. The dust flowed endlessly from deep within its trunk, and because the dust was plentiful, so was the fairies' magic. This is literally the version of Pixie Hollows we see in the movies. So the books are implying that they take place way after the movies. This is the worst timeline. Dude, she has a hot air balloon that flies away. But instead of befriending that cute firefly, she runs into Peter Pan and gets distracted by his whimsical ways so much that she forgets about Terrence for a hot second.
Stop it. Get some help.
Are you following along? I'm not. Thank God. We're done with the books I have. When you wish upon the second star to the right. What's up? It is, of course, me, your girl, the second star on the right. Will I always be cosplaying as a star every time I do a gaming stream? Some would say I'm always a star. The Pixie Hollows game lasted from 2008 and then shut down in 2013. But we have We the Pixies here, which is a fan-made recreation. I didn't see how much they got done. I wanted my authentic reaction. Hopefully there's stuff to do in here. I actually didn't check. Oh wow, look at that scenery on that tiny little rectangle. Is that Tinkerbell? The titular bachelor? Do you have a calf code? I don't know what that is. I'm gonna say no. Okay, everyone, we gotta lock in. We gotta make this decision together. Am I an animal fairy, a water fairy, a tinker fairy, which is women in STEM, a light fairy, or a garden fairy? We're saying water? I like that idea. Water fairies are the most emotional, so that already lines up with me. I think you guys are onto something. Me personally, I think I might have chosen animal over water, but water would have been a close second. I'm not building shit. Let's be real. I'm not using my hands. Oh, it's short or shorter. I like that. That's cute. So, oh, these are the limbs and the head. Actually, I want a big ass head, but a tiny little body. Actually, I don't know. Whoa. Whoa. I like it. It's like Buttercup. That's a sleigh. I'm sorry for what I'm gonna say, but shut the fuck up. It's giving seaweed. Yeah, and I'm the water fairy. Precisely. Oh, that's That is fashion. Are we all acknowledging that we're witnessing fashion? I like the pearls. I like the pearls. It's what? And water. She kind of looks like a hot mess. Okay, let's do a random one and see if we vibe with it. Raven Bumble Sprout. Absolutely fucking not. How about Barbara Muddy Foam? How about... Can you tell that I like it? How about Barbara Muddy Foam? She's gonna be skipping. She's gonna be joyous. Oh. Copy CAF code for the next time you play. Is this the only way to save? Oh, honey. Barbara's dying after we're done here today. I hate to say it. How do I go to the water? Well, this is kind of awesome. Barrie. Num 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 num. Oh, look, I can curl up in a little ball. I want to move now. No, 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 no. Barbara, stop! That's Silver Mist? What the fuck do you know about Silver Mist? I'll put each fish in a water bubble and you bounce them to safety over the waterfall. Ready? Let's go. If you're already there, like, couldn't you just bounce them? I don't understand. Sure, Silver Mist, fine. I mean, it doesn't seem very, like, efficient, but... So if I drop them, they die? Wow, I'm a gamer. Oh, shit. And balls. It's a hard job, but somebody has to do it. Have you seen my son? They bounced off the tree. That can't be good for them. So Silver Mist is putting them in bubbles, and then she's like, here you go. Catch it. No, 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 no. Oh, I killed one. But it's actually not that big of a deal. Oh, she's saying in the corner, yeah, over the waterfall she goes. I'm a little bored. What is this? Okay, I'm not in the frame, which is a little scary. I think I might have to report a bug. Where's the girl? Neverbeast Thicket? Fricket. I'm reporting a bug. My girl disappeared in Neverbeast Thicket, and I think she's gone forever. Please list the exact steps to reproduce the bug below. Go to Neverbeast Thicket. Any additional useful information? No. I don't have any. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean. I helped, I think. It was me. It was Athena the whole time. I'm not the second star on the right. In the arms of an angel.
Dazzling images on a huge silver screen.
This movie starts with establishing that the warm fairies can't go over to the winter side. Kind of crazy considering we saw them fly over the winter side in the first movie. Whoops, big ol' oversight there. Even the animal fairies can't cross with the animals. The animals gain a new winter coat immediately after crossing, but for the warm fairies it's far too cold and their wings can even freeze. Tinkerbell hates being told she can't do something, especially when the reason seems stupid to her. So when people tell her the Lord of Winter forbids it, she crosses over to the winter side anyway and notices that her wings sparkle. She tried explaining this to their friends, but they really don't give a shit. You don't understand, they glowed. Let me put this really simple for you. These are your wings. Yeah, okay? These are your wings on ice. Yeah, I don't understand, they were already ice. Wait a second, the Lord of Winter? They completely got rid of the Winter Ambassador, by the way. Tinkerbell, who is an expert at following her gut, to the point where she doesn't have an ounce of self-doubt in her 1 ounce body, decides to read up on what could have caused the sparkly wings thing. While looking through the book, she also mentions the title Beauty and the Bees, which means that canonically the Bee movie exists in this world. Moving on, Tinkerbell finds a page dedicated to sparkling wings, but the bookworm ate it. This nerd fairy that's also reading in this bookstore library thing explains that the keeper writes all of these books and knows everything. But he lives in the winter side. Now there's no stopping Tinkerbell. She's going to the winter side, meeting the keeper, and doing the damn thing. Just a second after sneaking into the keeper's workshop, we hear the voice of Periwinkle, and she's describing that her wings sparkled when she got closer to the border. As we hear this, Tinkerbell's wings begin to sparkle and Periwinkle's wings begin to sparkle again, and the keeper explains why this is. Is this trolls band together? Because secret sister alert! Tinkerbell and Periwinkle were created by the same laugh. It split and landed in different areas, so they're long-lost twins. I wonder if Periwinkle went on adventures with Peter Pot or some shit.
Yeah, I'm like never growing up. Whatever.
Periwinkle and Tinkerbell are even alike in their sense of style. They both like wearing pom-poms on their shoes, although Periwinkle admits that she only wears them in her house. Yeah, I don't have the balls to wear my balls out. And when they hold up their wings together and align them to see how identical they are, they get zapped.
Oh, boy. Maybe you shouldn't do that.
During their sister bonding montage, Periwinkle asks Tinkerbell if Terrence is her boyfriend, to which Tinkerbell responds, They're still teasing that romance, even though they're not making him a character anymore? Stop it. When Tinkerbell almost gets seriously hurt, the Keeper says it's time for her to go back to her season's side. But Tinkerbell is determined to introduce her sister to the other seasons and her friends. They created a mobile snow machine to keep her cold, and everything was going perfectly well until they ran out of ice and Periwinkle's wings began to shrivel up. Even though she made a full recovery, the Lord of Winter exclaimed that this is why they stay on their side. Queen Clarion also clarified that she was the one that made the rule. So I was like, oh my gosh, these two must be siblings too. I don't really see the family resemblance, but I'm seeing the parallels. And I just ran with that until I had to come to a screeching halt at the reveal that they're actually ex-lovers. Lord Mallory, the winter dude, chucks Tinkerbell's snow machine into a body of water by the border between seasons, which causes the other seasons to freeze over. He didn't know that was going to happen, but frantically, they have to find a way to save the Pixie Dust tree before it freezes. The whole movie, the Winter Lord dude was flying around on his snow owl and wearing a cape, but while everything was freezing, he gave his cape to Queen Clarion, and that's when you see one of his wings is torn. Tinkerbell flies to her sister to show her that the flower she covered in frost is still alive, so they cover the tree and everything else in frost to stop it from freezing over entirely, and it works. Everything's saved, and now they can visit each other because now they know they just have to cover their wings in frost to visit. Now that everything seems perfect, we have one last plot twist. Tinkerbell reveals that she tore her wing. But because this is somehow before the events of Peter Pan, we know this doesn't last. So I was really afraid this was how the scene was gonna play out. And as we all know, there's no cure for a broken wing. Oh, I wouldn't be so sure about that. But luckily, they didn't have the Knowledge Keeper gatekeeping knowledge about a cure. No, the real way Tinkerbell's wing got fixed is through that twin sister zap thing. They fixed the broken wing with sisterly love. Frozen who, dude? Queen Clarion and Lord Mallory smooched. And Rosetta also got with this hot ice guy. Good for them. We love to see it. First we meet Zarina. She's a Dust Keeper fairy. She is a lot like Tinkerbell. In fact, her boss makes this direct comparison. She's always asking why, and she wants to experiment, but when working with Pixie Dust, it's best to be precise because it's very powerful and dangerous. But Zarina wants to innovate. She steals a bit of blue Pixie Dust and experiments on it. She's been studying and running trials for a while, as we've seen with her notebook, but she truly struck gold, creating 3 new types. Orange Pixie Dust allows her to bend light, purple Pixie Dust has fast flying elements, and pink Pixie Dust makes the flowers grow. Unfortunately, she trips, and the pink Pixie Dust causes a giant destructive overgrown plant. Fairy Gary, her boss, fires Zarina, and she is left with no purpose. She packs up, flies away, and then we get a time card that reads 1 year later. And I shit you not, I gasped when I saw that. This movie is taking us on a journey. Now we're brought to an arena where the Four Seasons Festival is about to begin, and they're celebrating with the Winter Fairies for the first time. Zarina returns with a whole new look. Oh no, she's hot! And she uses the pink gardening Pixie Dust to grow flowers that'll put the whole crowd to sleep. Rosetta sees this, is able to warn her friends, and they hide. They track Zarina down and see that she's working with a group of pirates, including a young Captain Hook. Let me say that again, but slower. A young Captain Hook. I don't understand. I thought people didn't age in Neverland. He's also voiced by Tom Hiddleston, which is just such interesting casting. In order to steal all the blue Pixie Dust, Zarina throws rainbow Pixie Dust at her group of girls, causing them to gain new colors in their outfits, and more importantly, they all switch talents. Tinkerbell is a water fairy, Iridessa is a gardening fairy, Rosetta is an animal fairy, Silver Mist is a fast flying fairy, Fawn is a light fairy, and Vidya is a tinker. I love the choice to make Vidya a tinker. After having her relentlessly dunking on Tinkerbell for being a nerd, it was just so fun to see the tables turn. So Zarina, as it turns out, is not somebody you want to make an enemy of. She created a brand new Pixie Dust tree. Hook captured and betrayed Zarina so he can take credit for all of her work. But like I said, you really don't want to be on Zarina's bad side. Hook probably should have made this partnership a lifelong thing. She won the fight with our girlies and rejoined Fairy Society with the new talent of Alchemy. One of my favorite parts was also the origin story of TikTok Croc. He's a little baby, he's adorable, we see him eat the clock and chase after Hook for the first time. Little legend. Can't believe he didn't get the hype that Baby Yoda got. He's so fucking cute. Speaking of adding on to the original canon, in an after credit scene we also see Smee meeting Hook for the first time.
Tinkerbell and the Legend of the Neverbeast.
Opening shot is of a green comet and a fairy tale-like voiceover warning us in rhyme about the chaos to come. The movie is centered around Fawn the animal fairy, and she deserves her time in the spotlight, let me tell you. She's always been one of my favorites. This movie might have been my favorite. I really like the Pirate Princess too, though. The last three were bangers. First, Fawn helps a baby hawk who has a broken wing, which leads to many adult hawks swooping in and causing mass panic. This movie also introduces us to the Fairy Scouts, led by Nyx. They are the new Pixie Hollows militia, I guess. Every movie introduces new characters and a new element to their fairy society. I have mixed feelings about this, because on one hand it really expands their world, but on the other hand I really wish we had a clearer idea of the timeline, because when we were seeing the talents in the first movie, there were so few. How many jobs have been invented since the first movie? Anyway, sprinkle some pixie dust on my disbelief and suspend it into the air, because this is the last major movie and it throws a lot at us. Nyx and Fawn are constantly at odds, because Nyx believes that Fawn thinks of the animals so much so that she puts the fairies in danger. Queen Clarion agrees, saying that Fawn needs to start leading with her head because she's always instead listening to her heart. So after Fawn agrees, no more helping predators, she hears a Jurassic Park type howl and thinks, yeah, I gotta see what this is about. This is where she meets this mix of bison, a possum, and wolf. The Disney Wiki says that this creature looks like the Bandersnatch, but honestly, I think he looks more like Appa from Avatar: The Last Airbender. After Fawn got the thorn out of his paw, she quickly befriended him, helping him make these rock towers he's really fixated on. And she gave him the nickname of Gruff. The nerdy book guy from Secret of the Wings is seen again, and Nyx is asking him to help her discover what this creature is. But the entire time he thought they were flirting. I love the trope of a nerd having a crush on a scary woman. He's so real for that. So Nyx discovered the legend of the Neverbeast, a creature who wakes up after the green comet every 1,000 years. The Neverbeast sprouts wings and horns, and according to the legend, the Neverbeast's mission is to destroy Pixie Hollow. Fawn doesn't believe this, but when Tinkerbell catches up to the Neverbeast, he starts to grow horns and tail whips her. Fawn sees this, believes he is a threat, and helps the Fairy Scouts trap him. Once Tinkerbell wakes up, she explains that Gruff only tail whipped her to save her from a falling tree. Fawn is mortified because this means she was right the entire time except for the one time she doubted herself, so she goes to free him. Turns out Gruff the Neverbeast made these rock towers and goes through this transformation to save the fairy kingdom. They thought he created the storm, but actually he's absorbing the lightning to save fairy kind. He falls from the sky, his wings are charred and fall off, his horns are gone, and he witnesses a Fawn death fake out. I knew she wasn't gonna die, but seeing him distraught, I actually almost started crying. It was so sad, but she's alive. Happily ever after, right? Wrong! Now the Neverbeast has to go back to sleep for 1,000 years. And the fairies exclaim, so we'll never see him again. What? I knew the fairies could die from children not believing in them and from predators like hawks, but I thought they were like lobsters. I thought they didn't die of old age. But they definitively said, in 1,000 years we will be dead. So I guess fairies can die of old age. Didn't know that. My jaw dropped. This changes everything. The scene where they help him go to bed is so sad. Each of them brought gifts like a comfy pillow, fresh water in a bowl, a breeze, so it's always the perfect temperature. And Nyx said she brought her respect, like that'll help him sleep. Hey dude, no offense, no one fucking cares. The movie ends with Fawn crying, saying I love you to her best friend that she's never gonna see again, as he closes his eyes. Ow! Ow! My heart! Fuck! According to Wikipedia, this is also the last Disney straight-to-DVD follow-up movie. They planned 2 more movies for the Tinkerbell series that never came to be, one of which included the origin story of her and Peter Pan. I wonder how they would have written that to make it not creepy as shit. I think this is the first time in lore history where I can't force it to make sense altogether. It truly is mind-boggling. I love the Tinkerbell movies. I think that is truly the best version of her character. I'm not saying she has to be perfect, but again, if you're gonna have a creature be born from the laughter of children, don't make me want to freaking fly swat them.